Yes.
Okay, you may begin.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone from Lagos, Nigeria. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. It's a great pleasure and honor to have you join us here for this session. And we have the privilege of having this program before the D-Day, which is the 31st of July, 2022, when we'll be celebrating the Africa Women Day. And it's also in sync with the 60th anniversary of that celebration for that being known as the Special African Woman. And today we'll be focusing on one of such women. It's really a wonderful thing to have with us today, Miss Esha Mohammed Abdallah. It's really lovely to have you with us, Esha.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for calling me and having me on board today.
Wonderful. And I'm sure you know how special you are as an African woman, and would like to thank you for all the contributions you've made to impact on the lives of women in the continent, and making sure that with your gift, you are impacting their lives and also raising the next generation of women to believe in their capacities and talents as women. So
Yes.
Today we'll be looking at the role that women fill the gap in leadership, especially young women, and the need for role models for them. So I'd like to start off by asking you, can you give us a brief overview of what your impression is about the average African woman?
Thank you very much for having me again. My name is Esha Mohammed. I am from Mombasa, Kenya. I'm an educator and a social worker. I am the founder of an organization called Her Narrative. Her Narrative is an organization, youth-led organization that looks at increasing or having talks on gender-based violence, SRHR, and leadership and governance. I also sit as one of the director of the National Youth Councils in Kenya. And for me, it's important. It's important that we have these discussions today regarding to young women participation in leadership position, but more so as we look at role modeling, because so often and so we don't have such conversations going on within the African context, and even worldwide it's very minimal because of maybe one reasons or the other. And one could be because of reduced or very limited mentorship sessions having or going on within the continent because of so many challenges. You'd find that, like myself, I have a number of role models that I look up to. And one is just close here, who is the president of Tanzania, H.E. Samia Suluhu Hassan, and also Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia. But they're very far-fetched. They're very far-fetched. It means we cannot have one-on-one conversation. And this is happening to so many young women within the continent. They have role models, they have people they look up to, but where or how do they get them is where the problem lies. And if you sit down with them, you'd find that gap. And as a young woman, we're discriminated actually twice. We're discriminated for being young, that is, you're a young person. And then also you're discriminated for your gender. So many things are happening for young women. And I'm happy that this year our theme is the unsung heroines. And I believe through these platforms, we'll be able now to meet people like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, that you can directly have conversation with them and learn from them and engage them, for them to see that we have upcoming young women that are really vibrant, and they know that with them by their side, because we cannot say that we should not have intergenerational dialogues. Older women are really important because they set the pace. They are the pioneers. So there's that gap. There's that gap where young women are feeling we are not hard enough. Our voice are not are not told, our stories are not shared, we're not given the platform to be had. But I'm happy. I'm really.
Okay, so I'm going to take it up from there, because when you are giving the introductory aspect of yourself, you said you're an educator. And
yes,
so we have very deeply embedded cultures in Africa that think the average girl, the girl child, is a secondary aspect of humanity. In essence, that is, if in a family we have the brothers and we have the sisters, the priority will be to educate the brothers, assuming that the sisters would be married off and belong to other families, and therefore the investment shouldn't be on them. And this has greatly impacted on the education of the girl child in Africa, and by extension, their self-value and self-worth as a human being has also been conditioned by these cultures, that they are secondary beings, that they are substitute beings. And so when they aim for leadership, it becomes a challenge because they do not see themselves in that role. What do you think should be done to mitigate some of the damaging effects of these cultures?
One, awareness creation is critical. When I speak about awareness creation, is we have to have conversation, not just conversation, but deep conversation on the importance of educating girls. And let me say this, and I think it's said a number of times, that when you educate a girl, you educate the whole nation. I cannot emphasize that enough. And we have seen it. We have seen it. We have lived it. And with that, it means we have to start taking these decisions, and not just there, but continue making policies that will enable us having more young girls going to school. And not that just the preference between the boys and the girls. Right now, we've also seen an increase of teenage pregnancies. In Kenya, just the other day, the Ministry of Health spoke that in just January and February, we had around 47,000 cases of young girls, teenage girls being pregnant. So it means these girls are going to leave or drop out of school, and their dream of becoming even leaders will no longer be there, because now they'll start thinking of being, I'm now a mother, I'm now thinking for two. So I think we're supposed to be having a holistic approach in how we are going to make sure that we reduce, or also we increase young girls, or make sure that we mentor them to go to school. So one is the awareness creation, two is mentorship. And today we are speaking, and we were saying in another conversation that we have to be intentional about the mentorship that we are doing. Education is very key and it's very important, but it can only happen if these girls themselves understand how important it is to go to school and be literate and understand, and even have conversations, small conversations like we are having. So mentorship cannot be underrated. I usually ask in a space, as a woman or as an older woman, how many young women have you touched? Have you walked their life with? Have you decided that from now on till the end of the year, I'll be mentoring like just two young girls, so that they can see. Today I posted on my Instagram, I said, for one to be something, they have to see it. They have to see it. They cannot become who they're not. So you have to be holistic. We have to look for holistic approaches in making sure that you're intentional in putting a girl in school. And not just that being in school, they're very safe and they feel that with that, they're able to achieve their dreams, So it's really sad where we still have preferences of the, sorry. It's really sad when we, yes, thank you. When you see communities within our continent still have preferences of boys to girls, and also seeing the other issues that are cropping on issues on teenage pregnancies, issues on gender-based violence that our girls are going through, menstrual hygiene management, these issues are very critical. So while we're looking at addressing them going to school, let's address these small issues that also are affecting them.
Fantastic. So taking this conversation further, a lot of the times when I read through some engagements on some digital platforms between the female gender and the male gender, and some rhetoric, questions come up, and you go through the flow of conversations and you begin to pick out some nuances about what the challenges have always been. And so we are the women, and we have been, imbued with the strength to raise families. And it's still this woman who raised the boy child. And in the process, inculcate into them some of the values that they, for their lifetime, have imbibed. And so you wonder where these issues of DV comes from, the domestic violence, which this, male child who was conditioned by a woman in her role as a mother brought up. And so you begin to understand the patterns that families have taken through to raise the child that was entrusted into them, being female or male. And so I want to bring out this issue. There's a question a young man asked one time, and the answers were disturbing. He asked, what else does a woman bring to the table in a marriage? Because his intention was, we are the ones who do everything. We spend the money, we raise the family. And then the plethora of answers were going, the women began to answer him. If you could birth the child, if you could raise the child, if you could keep the home going, if you could have a job, if you could be given responsibilities in the job. And by the time they listed all this guy no longer was answering to this, because it was evident that the burden on the shoulders of the woman was really enormous. And then these are people, if they are given leadership roles in the corporate world, how can they then begin to manage such and it wouldn't in the end affect them mentally? I think we're having some issues with Esha's connection. Can you hear me, Esha? Sorry, we apologize for that. Well, that's also the aspect of technology that we have to deal with most times. I think Esha might log off and try to log back in so that we can continue this very interesting conversation. Hello, Esha, are you back on?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Sorry. I think the network had some issues.
I think so too. So I'm talking about the conditioning of the man who thinks that the female is to be acquired for the role she plays in his family. And then you have the woman who thinks there's so much burdens on her shoulder. And so when she's given leadership position, how does the man expect her to come home, still keep the home, cook the food, and then run the office at the same time? What do you think we should take away, in this line of thinking?
For me, I think I love how you spoke when you say that the man, the responses came, he kept quiet. And that is where the problem is most of the time people lack information. They think women are just at home they're not doing anything. And it's because of how we were raised, the cultures, the environment that we've been brought up with. These are the issues that come up. But my opinion will be that we have conversation with both genders so that we can streamline information from this gender to the other gender. With how the economy right now, we cannot only have a go and fend or go. We have to have man and we have issues that are well raised by women. What do I mean? We have to have women in leadership positions. Only a woman that understands how a woman feels. If the issues on reproductive health, like right now, as we're speaking about issues on early pregnancies and all that, it is for a woman to understand the effect of early pregnancies because they have been through the same thing. It is for a woman to know that issues on gender-based violence, the effects of gender-based violence, which I know gender-based violence are both for men and for women. But how now do you is because that woman already has gone through, so they'll have measures. They'll know if I go through this, then this will be the right thing for me to be helped with. So mine is to break the stereotypes. Let's break the stereotype. Let's break the biasness of both genders. And then let's stop gender wars on social media. These gender wars are not helping. Where men are saying this, women are coming up with this. No, no, no. Let's see, what are the issues? How can we sit down? How can we start checking that this is not quite helping us, or that it's not progressive as we thought it will be? How do we add 1+1 and make sure it becomes 2? So we have to sit down as men and women and figure out how we're going to be helping each other out, and not each and every time talk, oh, now we have things on social media like gender wars. People are fighting each other. Oh, the man says this, the woman says this. No, 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 no. So, with such instances, what are we telling the younger generation? You see, what are we telling them? Because now we are drawing the line. Everyone wants to be seen that they are all strong and brave and they have to do this. No, let's sit down, let's have conversation, let's understand that, yes, when a woman goes to work, they actually come home tired. They do. And then for women, they should also not push pressure. And there is the woman pressure, where, for example, the woman says, I'm also a woman, I've been through the same, so you have to, it doesn't have to be that. If you went through that, it doesn't mean that I should also go through the same. But because maybe you went through, I'll be learning from you, so I'll know when to skip the holes. You see? Yes. So I think we should change our thinking extremely and make sure that we all have each other at the table, both men and women. Let's not segregate. Let's sit together, see how we can transform this nation together. And women in leadership is critical. Very critical.
Yes. Now that is, an area would like to look at some of the implications. We have a lot of women in the corporate world in very sensitive leadership positions. We also have women in politics, but it's been a battle for a lot of women in balancing these roles, because we have what you call the imposter syndrome, where a woman still feels, with all her achievement, with everything she's gone through in life, that she's still not deserving of this role. Do you think that has implications for the young African girl who we should be grooming in all ramifications to feel confident in whatever leadership role she's being built for in life?
Yes, it has implications. And one implication is, again, it goes back to what I said. We become what we see. So if I see that you're not comfortable in the position that you're having right now, then tomorrow when I get the same position, I'll second guess myself. I say, then I'm not supposed to actually be here. If so and so thought they're not supposed to be here, who am I to be in that position, And probably is, I worked really hard to be in that position. But now because I saw you second guessing yourself, then I'll also start self-doubting. No. Whatever that she was thinking or feeling is actually the same. And that's why it's really that we have role models. Models, not only to tell us that it can happen, no, but models who show us that it can happen, and I have accepted, and I am capable to deserve this position.
All right. So let's look at the pyramid. And we have at the base what actually led to the conviction that the unsung heroine in Africa deserves to be celebrated. So we have these women who have built families in their little corners with little or no education. And they still also find themselves somehow in some leadership roles at their levels and have been able to impact in their societies, in their immediate environment, with their leadership skills, with little or no education. And we felt there's so many of them across Africa, in marketplaces, in schools, in offices, in their little jobs, but they have raised families with those little contributions that they have made with the little skills they have had. Where do you think such women are placed in the conflict area we find ourselves in Africa at the moment, internalizing some Western cultures and still bringing in the old family roles and values that Africa inculcated into those women? Because they're the ones that eventually build up the families of bankers, engineers, and those who rose through the ranks in the white-collar job environment?
These women actually, as you said, are very far. And far, I mean, not far-fetched, but far to mean they'll never get to be celebrated. People don't as people that we should celebrate or we should know. And it's because themselves, they didn't take time to say that, yes, I actually brought a life, one, and then this life has become a banker. So this is what celebration. Or it is through the hard work. It was just, and you'd find there's a story that someone was telling us somewhere that he's a boy in a family of 9, and they were all raised by the mother. And so it was the mother that did everything. And now he's a minister somewhere. And he was saying he is really thankful of the mother. But you'd find that this mother, even at times, not him specifically, but the mother themselves are actually not seeing what they have done. You see, because the nature of the environment that they are in. And also as a continent or countries, to get these women that are doing extremely well, they are actually the one feeding their families. But because they are not recognizing themselves first, we also forget to recognize them and the effort they're doing in building the economy and the continent. See? And it's very sad. It's sad that we pass a while. It takes a while to start even appreciating women, those that we do not see or never heard of, So it's also a privilege when now we are seeing progress through the Africa Women's Day, the unsung heroines. We are saying, yes, it actually can happen. So it means we are motivating that woman who is at home with 9 kids. And Clara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm listening.
Yes. So we are motivating that woman who is at home in an avenue or a place of war with 9 kids, but they're going over and beyond to make sure that their kids are eating. They're going over and beyond to make sure that their kids are in school. They're going over and beyond to make sure that their kids are not lacking, So it's actually a privilege. And I think we should have more of this because these women need that. There's a way in a told, Clara, we appreciate you. Just that. You just smile, Yes, and I think we need that more. We cannot. And we have to be not only intentional, but strategize ourselves to see how we're going to get those women so that we start celebrating them in the little way that we know how.
Fantastic. So let's move on to politics. What are your views on how women can take up leadership roles in politics using their immediate constituency, which is women folk, how to galvanize them so they could also have some impact and say in the way policies that affect women could end up in the legislative houses?
Nice. First, let's remind ourselves that women comprise close to half of the population of this world, Africa, and even in my country, I think we've surpassed half of the population. So it's really sad when we still see a very, very few of us within the political spaces. And I think that is one of the reasons, not even I think, it's one of the reasons that I decided to be also vibrant within the leadership space, because then who is going to be there if we decide not to? And we have seen that through our various leaders, that if we decide as women, if we decide to be intentional, if we decided to take the bull by its horn and say that this year, like this year in Kenya, we have elections, that this year we need to have woman as either an MP, a member of parliament, or a senator, or even the president of this country, we can. And this can only happen through synergies, through working together, through making sure that we empower each other and believe in one another. Let's believe that a woman can become the president. We were really excited when one of the political parties took a woman as a running mate for a presidential candidate, Hechi Martha Karua. We were really excited because after all those years of independence, since we gained our independence till that, it's now that we are seeing even a vice president, a woman, So what is it telling us? it means we need to do better as women. Yes, we've come from far, we're very far, but there's more that we can do. From when we started the talks in Beijing to now that we are seeing at least different heads of state as president, from Liberia to Ethiopia to right here Tanzania, and Kenya at least having a deputy president. So at least we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And I believe through these women that we are seeing, and also our four ancestors or mothers that we saw, then we'll be able to start critiquing, start going out there and take our rightful positions as women. The future is female, and it's not a joke. The future is really female. And if we then we can take out this world. And we see several increased number of countries and states having female heads of state. And trust you me, by just that, we'll see so many young women take up positions. And I'm glad that I saw the MP of Namibia, the youngest MP of Namibia, Patience, part and parcel of the people that were seen and recognized. And I hope she also speak. Because with that, it inspires me, it inspires some other girls, it inspires someone else that it can, and it can happen. It is not tomorrow, it can happen today.
Awesome, amazing. I'm so excited, about those hopes and the way that, you inspire those watching us that it's possible, because that takes me to this aspect of mental framing.
Yes.
Some women are already conditioned to believe that it's not a position a woman should take from childhood. Yes. So that affects their mental alignment to move from that position of victimhood to be able to become a victor and own their thinking process, to believe that they're capable, placed in that same position as a man, that they can achieve the same results or even do more. So I think, if I should go back to education, do you think there is any way the curriculums that are put in place in our educational sectors continue this, misalignment of gender roles, so to say, and through schooling, when it gets to a point, the division is made, the women are placed in roles that fit women, and the men are told to go the other way in roles that fit men?
Yes, it's true, and it starts in schools. Education is everything. Education is everything, and I repeat it here. And I at times tend to argue, not argue per se, but have a different opinion with people that says that with leadership, we don't have to have a degree, or you can just be a leader. Yes, you can be a leader, but education liberates you. Education sets you apart. Education gives you what any other thing cannot give you. So we cannot ever think that we should not be educated at one given point. And our education system has in itself to make sure that we align the gender roles, not just because of, a girl has to become weak, a girl has to be submissive, a man is the head of the family, which at times culturally very true. But how now do we use that to make sure that our girl understand that you can actually stand up and do something? Because it starts there. It starts when that girl is maybe grade 1, and you tell them, Esha, I know you're in grade 1, but I believe in you. I believe you can become the president of this country. I can become the CEO of this company. It starts from there. That small phrase, or that word of positivity you put in that girl, they'll forever remember that there is a Clara somewhere that told me I can become whoever I want to become in this world. And I will never forget it. Yes, we can have discussions on the gender roles, but let's mentor them to become who they want to be, or bigger than even what they want to be. And I believe that is where you'd find that in the Western countries, they start that at the very young age, and you'd find that a grade 1 student will tell you, I want to become so and so, and they align their vision towards that. So that is where, as a continent, should look, that from the word go, when I say I want to become a president, align me, bring me opportunities that go hand in hand with me becoming president in future. So it becomes easier that I'll forever know that I started with this dream way long, and I believe can become. And then now with the models, role models that we have, with seeing them, I continue assuring myself and reminding myself it's not hard, it can happen, let's just continue. Yes, so the curriculum is really important. We should streamline such talks. Yes, we have life skill sessions, but how do we integrate this part that our girls understand who they actually are and face their fears head on? Because as educators, we tend sometimes to forget. We just teach and teach and teach. You go to a class and maybe teach on literature. Forget that there's also these other things. There are even things like soft skills that people forget to get in, because we are just busy rushing towards the curriculum and forget their soft skills, that the education that you're teaching her, the B plus or the degree that we're giving her will get her to the door, but it's through soft skills that would get her the job. So our education system has to align to the dreams of especially our young girls, because if it doesn't happen, then let's forget about having or seeing a generation of young women who are open-minded, who believe they can be, who have their own principle and values, and they are not apologizing about it, they're not apologetic about it. We can forget. And the bad thing about it, Clara, before you continue the question, is you'd find that men say, I don't want my wife to go and do ABCD, but change and say, I want my daughter to become the president. They forget that the wife is someone else's daughter.
Exactly, exactly. So that's really, really amazing that they cannot connect the dots in terms of their reasoning pattern in that sense, you understand? So, like I said, a lot of work still needs to be done on our psyche. But before I continue the questions, I'd like to ask Mr. Benga if we have any questions from any of our viewers that they would like Esha to discuss. Can we please have it on the chat segment so I can ask Esha those questions? If anyone is watching us on YouTube, on Zoom, on Facebook, on Instagram, and any of our other handles, and you'd like to ask Esha a question, please send it forward and we'll be able to get that through to Esha so she can throw more light on them. So let's now move on to the issue of mental health. We've seen what is going on in the continent. There's been a huge, what I call it, conflict in terms of cultures melting together. You have the Western culture that is trying to find its way into the embedded African culture where we are coming from. And you go to major cities and, suburbs around countries, and you're seeing people coming out from the villages trying to pick on a new lifestyle, a bit reflective of the Western culture that we're finding ourselves. And this is throwing up a lot in the African continent. And then it's also spiked in the way marriages are failing in terms of divorces. So you have women who are wanting their independence in some way, but they're not even aware of the sort of independence that they want, which can also be accommodated in building a family. So it's this conflict piece that we're looking at. A girl who wants to fulfill her dreams of getting married and still building a career for herself, and finding that marriage is probably limiting her potentials because the man feels she has to stay at home and be a housewife.
It's actually true. And again, I relate to a conversation I had with a friend. So I have this friend of mine. I have this friend of mine somewhere. But previously, before she was there was someone else. So the lady. The lady has gotten married. So she's at home and working and all that. But she comes once in a while. So I told her, so and so, do you know that this is going to be us after marriage? That it means get married, you'll have now extra priorities. And sometimes even apart from the husband saying it, because with the way we have been brought up, with the culture that we've come up with, you'll just find yourself saying, I just have to stay home. I have to take care of myself, especially when I'm pregnant. I have to look after the house. Sometimes it's not even the man, sometimes it's even yourself, because you've been conditioned that as a woman, you have to stay at home, you have to. So I was telling her that, and she's like, Esha, that is the reason as to why we are taking time to create our own lane and paths and becoming grown within our spaces, especially if it's work, it's your work that is giving you something before you end up getting married. Because then by then the man will find you that you are already somewhere. So he'll think twice of telling you, stop doing that. It becomes hard. But now that you're still finding yourself, don't rush into it. And that is actually the same thing that it goes. And if you take this young woman who has been all over the place like myself, and then you're not going to work anymore, actually you're killing her emotions. And mentally it disturbs her as a person. Like from all over, you're all over the place to now just staying at home and not caring about the outside world. It will, and it's affecting so many marriages because now this lady has been educated, used to work, was somewhere, and then now she just has to stay at home, looking at the four walls around her without doing anything. And that's why we see an increase in divorce cases. We see an increase in mental health issues. And it's because of that, you also frustrate the husband and you cause them emotional violence, because now you're telling them, you took me from my home where I used to work, I used to go to school, you're putting me here, I'm very tired. So you're causing him also harm. In regards with, because he's going through the emotional intelligence, he ends up even beating you, causing physical violence, so it becomes a ripple effect. It becomes a ripple effect of things that are happening to this woman. So it started just with just small things like don't go to work. And then it goes like, why are you telling me not to go to work? And then the man starts thinking, why is my wife disobeying me? So it causes him, and then he becomes sick or something. And then so he starts hitting you. So I'm telling you, not. So it leads to even gender-based violence issues. And then we forget, again, women are half of the population of this country. And that it means if you don't give them opportunities, then what are we doing to our economy as nations? Even what are we doing to our economy? Instead of us working together, being together, we are breaking our economy. In the end, we are even making our women go through mental health, you know? So it's critical that we have this conversation, especially to young, so that they can understand. But that doesn't mean that they don't have responsibility. They should, but let's see how they can do it at a better way, in a way that they also understand slowly for them to marry, relationships and household, but don't take them from a hand zero. It's not right.
All right, great. So we're gradually coming towards the end of the discussions. But let's look at the global aspect of female-led businesses. There's been some, growth in funding for female-led startups and businesses, because I believe the guilt started to, will I say, affect a lot of big funding partners globally to understand that the gap was really, really so wide, and they began to encourage women and say, okay, if you could come up with business ideas, if you could build businesses, if you could train yourself to gain soft skills to run companies, we will be willing to provide grants and funds for you to begin these businesses and be called a CEO. And in doing this, you must have equipped yourself for these leadership roles. Do you think the African woman understands how this plays out and how these opportunities could transform their lives, their immediate families, and the continent in general?
We have two types types. We have those that understand, and we have those that they tend not to have the collateral. But for the grants, they now start questioning, should I go for the grant, will I get it? But it's a good position because we have seen, even World Bank, we have seen a number of those outside organizations that fund women-led businesses and women entrepreneurs within the African continent, which is a good thing. But before, I think it's important that we have sessions, awareness session and sensitization to women for them to understand. And I'll give a quick scenario. In Kenya, we have women funds, and of them, but areas like my area where women don't go to take those funds. So money comes through and it goes back to the national government, not because we don't have, but because women still don't have that information, so information is power. Let's make sure that our women know that there are opportunities where they can get grants, where they can get loans, and how do they go about it in these places. And how do we also bring in men in these conversations, because men are very critical in the family household. We cannot just do away with them, so that and tell them that, look at doing this and this, kindly also allow, just like we did issues on contraceptives. Men are also brought on board so that they can understand the magnitude that there is today and tomorrow. You might be here to provide for your family, but tomorrow you'll not be here. And these grants are opportunities, and grants are not, you don't pay back. Why then will you let your woman not get these grants? Such conversation is really critical. And policies in place. And I'm glad also within the leadership spaces or within the political space, we now talk of 2/3 gender role, where it's important that we have women in decision-making table, because then it will be easier for us to even get to have this. Information comes at the national level, at the continental level. So for each district to have our own voices there, to get that information, to bring it to the grassroots level, to the women that we're talking about here, women that are never recognized, women that don't know about these opportunities, women who are never in the scene, but they're doing extremely good work that if they're given this funding, they can actually scale up the businesses at that local level and employ so many people. You see? So these are conversations that we should have frequently. Most important, if we can have also now that we have even such an opportunity, that one aspect of it is to share opportunities during that day. You see, that we have a section where we'll be putting in opportunities for women-led businesses, for women-led entrepreneurs, so that at least after the whole sessions that we have learned, they can click and see this is an opportunity opening for me. Or for those that are not there, they can pick these opportunities and share them to the women at the lower level. Because I believe in such forums. This is where everything happens. So let's utilize such forums for the betterment of our women. And last but not least, we have the AFCFTA, the African Free Trade Area, that is really crucial for our continent. And they have an aspect of women and youth. How do we utilize that to make sure that entrepreneurs or the women entrepreneurs and business women are using that for their own benefit so that they can grow themselves? If you can have, if you're having that big market, how do you get your goods from Kenya to Nigeria, from Nigeria to Kenya? What do you put in place? Do they even know that it is there?
Absolutely amazing. Finally, I'd like you to, share your thoughts on me with this aspect of being a leader and a boss, because attitude is very critical when it comes to leadership roles. And the fear of some men is that a lot of women are so emotionally unstable to handle responsibilities that are sensitive. And this puts them at odds with their female leaders, who they term as bossy. So in workplaces, when a woman has leadership roles, how does she manage her emotions to be able to draw a thin line between being called a leader and a bossy woman? in the workplace?
Sorry, I was really happy to respond. Um, but let me say this. Emotions are for everyone. If men have emotion, very also unstable. When a woman has emotion to call her bossy, you have who are very bossy. Do you speak of them? Do you say that, oh, that no. We keep quiet and hold our horses. And then the irony part of it is men would say they want a woman who is older. They'll give a character who is courageous, who is brave, who will do this, who will do this. But when they get that woman, they'll say, no, this is a woman. A woman is supposed to be submissive. So they end up actually changing their own perspective about it. For me, I said we cannot be men. And we will never, one of my close people say, you can never be, you should continue being a woman, but use that to become the leader that you want to be. Because the moment that we say we want to be like men who claim to say that they are very emotionally intelligent, then we will not become women, because that is not us generally. We are born, raised to become women. So utilize our womanhood, to become the leaders that we look out to be, and to serve our nations, and to make sure that we've seen changes. And we'll also challenge them in terms of, we have seen great women leaders, or great leaders, not even women leaders, great leaders who are women. An example you just spoke of, Ellen Salif, when she took in Liberia. Liberia was in civil wars. A lot of things are happening. But after that, so many changes. We saw tremendous changes in Liberia, So let's stop say that women are emotionally unstable. Because at some point, but we don't that. But we are quick to judge women when we become emotionally unstable, which is not right. You see, it's not right, and we cannot do that's double standard. Actually, we cannot do that, and we cannot have that. They say that women are the enemies of other women. I usually say that is a myth, because you have men that backstab other men that even kill others or do very nasty things to other men. But do we say no? We keep quiet. But when another woman is envious or jealous, we call that their enemy. But why don't we say them of the men? So these are just stereotypes. I think and I believe, for me, a woman should just be a woman and serve their country as a woman and become a leader. And let's not term it as bossy, and let's not judge them because at times of the issues that they go through, because men also go through the same. You see? So for me, that's very critical. Let's break the biases. Let's break the stereotypes. Let's accommodate each other as we are, as long as we are doing what you're supposed to be doing. If I was given the role to become the president of this country and I am doing just that, the other things are just big. Clara?
All right. So we're around, yes, audio and but where did you find your voice? When did you begin to realize that you needed to take your space in the world and define who you are with everything? Was it from childhood? Was there a special incident that propelled you to do this? And who were the people that influenced your life most to emerge in this thinking pattern of where you really wanted to go?
Okay. For me, I've gone through, I will not say I was, but when I grew up, or was growing up as a young, because currently but when I was young, I did not think I'll become who I am today. Partly because I'm very chubby. I grew up very chubby and dark skinned, and when you're that young, people tend to pick on you, body shame you, even at times being called ugly or something. But when I went to my high school, my body shaped itself up. I looked at myself and said, I'm beautiful the way I am, and you cannot change it. Because I also saw that a number of the young women that I relate with or I am with actually change their skin color. Others go in hand to even use some medicinal to either reduce their body size, reduce certain parts of their bodies because of one thing or the other, because of how they look. And when I got out of that phase, and so that I can become how I am and how I look like, I took it up. And I remember I was in my second year that day, and I said, there's so many things that young women like myself are going through. Esha, you have to be very busy, you have to be seen, and you have to impact in this uh, in this city so that people can actually, young women have voices and need to be heard. So I started volunteering with different organizations, and it came to pass people saw the work that, and I got an appointment. So the Minister for Innovation, ICT Innovation and Youth Affairs actually appointed me as a director of the National Council because of the work that I do. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is actually nice. So it means people are hearing me and whatever that I'm doing. So we need to put more effort. And I have ambitions, not just to become the president, more, so that we can change the legacy. And then a number of my colleagues are like, oh, Esha, you and what? But I'm like, it's important that we engage ourselves in such discussions because this is where our life is determined. This is how you get to see you're eating at $200 or this amount of money because they have made it that way. But if you're there, then you are the one saying cannot be eating at this amount. So how about we do this? This budget is too high for our people. We're taking so much loan from the bigger countries. What are the issues? What can we do to increase our own revenue allocations in the country? What can we do to make sure that we are producing more so that we can be able to export outside the country? So when you find that and realize that there are things in this country and this nation have to be spoken about, then you stand up there and speak. And that is how I got my voice. We cannot sit. We cannot all say that we don't want. There's that person that has to stand up and say, we have to start speaking. Because if we don't, then no one will, Clara. No one will. So I've gone through a number of issues. My path is very different in leadership and governance, and I love it because I educator, then it adds to the students that I will be teaching. Oh, madam is yes. Oh, she's an educator, yes. Sit with her, she can mentor you to become even the other person. Because that is my purpose. That's what I was brought in this life to do. So, and look at the country and the nations that we have in this continent and the world. We have so many roles. People like Margaret Thatcher in the US, who in that whole parliament, she was the only one, the only female. People like Helen Johnson, I've mentioned her 100 times, but I still mention her because I love her. Helen Johnson, people like Samia Suluhu Hassan, people like Martha Karua, people, women of substance, women that have been doing it. Then what is stopping us as young women? So we need more, very many roles for people like us who love politics and leadership, governance, for people who love STEM, for people who all those women, those various capacities for us to learn from. So that is how I got my voice, and I love it here. I love it where I am able to speak and be heard and get recognized.
Amazing. What an interesting conversation we've had this evening, Esha. Thank you so much. It's really been exciting for me, and I've learned so much from our conversation. And I also believe those who've listened to us really learned quite a lot because, it's amazing that there's so much to talk about and people can learn from. And a simple word you could drop into someone's life could send them on a different trajectory in their lifetime to a better future for themselves. Thank you so much. It's been an engaging 1 hour sitting and talking with you. And I look forward to hosting you once again on the 31st Africa Women's Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really get the opportunity. Thank you so much. But let's increase then in these spaces.
Thank you, Esha. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. That's it for today. See you on the 31st of July.